Uh, Virgo. Okay, so let me start with the silence. Not the comfortable kind, not the silence of two people who have said everything that needed to be said and are resting in the completion of it. The other kind, the specific, loaded, suffocating kind that exists between two people when one of them has something enormous living in them that they cannot find the way to bring forward, and the other one is standing on the other side of it, waiting without fully knowing what they are waiting for. That silence sat between you and this person, and you felt it. You felt it in the specific way that Virgo feels things that are not being said in your body before your mind caught up with it, in the quality of what was in the air when you were together, even when the surface of things appeared normal, in the inexplicable sense that something significant was being withheld from the space between you without being able to point to anything specific enough to name. You were not imagining it. The silence was full, fuller than you knew. I want to start somewhere that most readings about this kind of situation do not start. Not with what they did, with what was happening inside them while they were doing it. Because the ignoring did not come from nothing. And the hurting did not come from indifference in the way that the experience of being on the receiving end of it might have suggested. I know that is a complicated thing to hear. I know that the distinction between being hurt by someone who did not care and being hurt by someone who cared and hurt you anyway does not immediately feel like a meaningful distinction from inside the pain. Pain is pain. Absence is absence. And the absence you experienced was real regardless of what produced it. But I think you deserve the full picture. And the full picture is this: what was happening inside this person while they were pulling away, while they were creating the distance, while they were doing the specific things that registered in your experience as being ignored and being hurt, was not the absence of feeling. It was the overflow of it. Let me sit with that for a moment because I want to say it precisely. There are people who hurt others from a place of emptiness, who withdraw because they genuinely do not feel enough to stay, who create distance because the person they are distancing from does not occupy enough of their interior world to make presence feel necessary. That is one kind of hurt, recognizable in a certain way, carrying its own particular kind of grief. And then there is the other kind, the kind that comes from someone who feels too much and has no architecture for holding it, who has been overtaken by something they did not plan for and do not know how to manage, who retreats not because you mean nothing, but because you mean something so significant that staying in full proximity to that significance while being unable to express or act on it or trust it or believe they deserve it feels impossible. So they create distance, and the distance looks from your side exactly like not caring. But it was never not caring. It was the opposite of not caring, dressed in not caring's clothes. Let me pull the cards now because they arrived with the beginning of this reading, and what they are showing carries a texture I want to deliver with care. The first card is the Six of Cups, and the Six of Cups is one of the most emotionally specific cards in the entire tarot. It is not simply nostalgia in the general sense. It is the card of a return to something, of someone who has been living in the present while fundamentally residing in the past, of a person whose daily experience of their current life is constantly, involuntarily, sometimes painfully interrupted by the specific pull of something that existed before. This person lives in memories of you, not occasionally, not when something obvious triggers the association constantly, in the background of everything, in the particular quality of quiet that settles over them in the unoccupied moments of their day, in the reflexive comparison that happens when they encounter anything that resembles what you had, in the dream that arrives without invitation and leaves them waking into a morning that is notably, specifically, measurably less than what the dream contained. The Six of Cups for this person is not sweet nostalgia. It is an ache that has not found its resolution. And what I feel in this card for your situation is something specific. This is not the ordinary pull of missing someone you were with. This is something that has deepened over time rather than softened. Something that the passage of time, which is supposed to do the work of fading, has somehow made more vivid, more present, more impossible to integrate into the ordinary flow of a life being lived without you. They are more aware of you now than they were when you were together. That is the specific quality of the Six of Cups in this position. Absence has made what was unclear clear. The second card is the Four of Cups reversed. And the Four of Cups in its upright position is the card of someone so turned inward, so lost in their own processing, so consumed by what they are sitting with that they cannot see what is being offered to them, cannot register the hand extended, cannot receive what is available because their attention is entirely occupied by what they are internally negotiating. That was them during the ignoring. Reversed, this card transforms. The reversal of the Four of Cups is the card of someone emerging, of someone who has been sitting in the cave of their own interior for long enough that they have finally reached a point of completion with whatever they were processing in there, of someone lifting their head, becoming aware again of the external world, beginning to feel the pull toward what they withdrew from with a clarity and a readiness that was not available to them before. They are emerging, not perfectly, not with everything figured out, not with a clean and organized understanding of exactly what they want to say or do or offer, but with something more valuable than perfect preparation, with genuine readiness, the kind that only comes from having actually done the work of sitting with something difficult long enough to move through it rather than around it. They have been in the cave. They are coming out. The third card is the Ace of Cups. And I want to sit with this card for a long moment because of what it means in this position at this point in this reading. The Ace of Cups is the purest form of emotional beginning in the entire tarot, not the continuation of something, not the resumption of something paused, the beginning, the specific, clean, origin point quality of feeling that exists before it has been complicated by circumstance or history or the accumulated weight of everything that happened before. Its appearance here is significant in a way I want to be precise about. It does not mean that what existed before is simply restarting. What the Ace of Cups suggests for this situation is that what is moving in this person right now has the quality of something new. Not new in the sense that the feeling is unfamiliar to them, but new in the sense that who they are in relationship to that feeling has changed. The person who is feeling this now is not identical to the person who was feeling it before and did not know what to do with it. Something in them has shifted, grown, developed enough capacity to hold what they feel without being overwhelmed into retreat by the holding of it. The feeling is the same. The person carrying it is different, and that difference matters more than anything else in this reading. Does something in you recognize what I am describing? Not just the situation, but the specific quality of knowing underneath everything that something between you and this person was never fully complete? Have you felt the particular incompleteness of it, even in the moments when you were working hardest to tell yourself it was over? Let me know in the comments, not the whole story. One word for the feeling that lives in you when you let yourself think about this person without the protection of the narrative you have been using to manage the thinking. Because I think many of you came to this reading today already knowing the reading is simply making it safe to know out loud. I need to speak now to the hurt itself, because this reading would be dishonest if it named what they feel without fully honoring what was done. You were ignored. I am not going to soften that into something more palatable. Whatever the interior reason, whatever was happening in them that produced the behavior, the experience of being on the receiving end of that withdrawal was real. The specific, particular, almost physical quality of reaching towards someone and finding absence where presence used to be, that is real. That leaves a real mark. And the hurt, not just the sadness of missing someone, the sharper thing, the thing that lives in the specific moment when you realized that what you were experiencing was not a temporary difficulty, but a deliberate distancing. When the understanding arrived, however gradually, that something had changed in the quality of what was being offered to you, that you were being held at a length you did not choose and were not consulted about, that hurt has its own weight, separate from the love, coexisting with it in the complicated way that things only coexist when the situation is genuinely complex rather than simple. And I want to say something about that hurt that I think is important. It does not cancel what they feel, but it also does not simply dissolve because what they feel is real. Both things are true simultaneously. Their love is real and their behavior caused harm. Their regret is genuine and the thing they regret actually happened. Their feeling never stopped, and you still had to live through the experience of being treated as though it had. All of it is true at the same time. And any version of this story that asks you to choose which part is real is not telling you the full truth. Let me speak to the regret now, because it is in the title of this reading and it deserves its own full examination rather than being treated as a footnote. The regret this person carries is not the clean, uncomplicated kind that exists when someone knows they did something wrong and feels appropriately bad about it. It is messier than that, more layered. There is regret for the specific things they did, for the withdrawal, for the ignoring, for the moments when you needed something from them and what you received instead was distance, for the specific conversations that did not happen, for the things that were felt and not said, for the choices that were made in the absence of the courage those moments actually required. But underneath that specific regret is something older and larger. Regret for who they were in this, for the version of themselves that showed up or failed to show up during the most significant connection they have experienced, for the gap between what they felt and what they expressed, for the cost that gap imposed on you, for the way their own unprocessed interior life became, without their full conscious awareness of what was happening, a source of pain for someone they genuinely love. They sit with that, not dramatically, not in a way that produces visible evidence of what they are carrying, but in the quiet, in the specific, private, inescapable way that genuine regret lives in a person who has enough self awareness to understand what they lost and enough honesty to know why they lost it. They know, they have always known, and the knowing has been sitting in them like a weight that time has not lightened. I want to speak to something now that I feel is the most important thing in this reading, and that I have been moving toward since the first word. The question underneath everything this reading has described is not whether they love you. They do. The question is not whether the regret is real. It is. The question is not even whether something is shifting in them right now in the direction of honesty and courage and the specific readiness that was missing before. It is. The question that this reading is actually asking, the one that lives at the center of everything I have been describing, is this: what do you want? Not what you are supposed to want. Not what the hopeful part of you that has been holding a candle for this person quietly and without much acknowledgement wants. Not what the hurt part of you that built protective distance in response to being ignored wants. Not what any version of you that is responding to their feelings rather than genuinely consulting your own wants. What do you actually want? From a place of full information, knowing that the love was real and the hurt was also real, knowing that what was broken in them that produced the behavior has been in process and is genuinely different now, and also that the behavior still happened and still had consequences, knowing that the feeling between you has the quality of something that does not resolve cleanly in either direction and may not ever be simple. From inside all of that, what does the truest, most self honoring, most clear eyed version of you actually want? I am not going to answer that for you. This reading is not in the business of telling you what to choose. What it is in the business of is making sure that whatever you choose it from the full picture rather than the partial one, from a place of genuine self-knowledge rather than from the momentum of what hurts or what hopes or what fears. You deserve to make this choice consciously, with everything on the table. Let me speak to something tender that I have been feeling throughout this reading that I want to name before we close. You have been taking care of yourself through this. Not perfectly, not without the moments when the weight of it got heavier than it should have had to be, not without the specific private difficulty of carrying something this significant in the dignified, composed, this is not something I perform for an audience way that is your particular signature. But faithfully, you have been faithful to yourself in this, to your own integrity, to your standards, to the version of yourself that knows what it deserves, even in the seasons when what it deserves is not what it is receiving. To the quiet, unglamorous, daily practice of continuing to be who you are rather than allowing what was done to you to reshape you into something smaller or more defended or less capable of genuine feeling. That faithfulness is not nothing. It is actually everything. Because it means that what is available in you now, whatever you decide about this person and this situation, is the full version, not a reduced version shaped by bitterness. Not a protected version that has traded depth for safety. Not a version that has decided in response to being hurt that the solution is to need less. The full version, with everything intact. And the person who returns to you, whatever form that return takes, is returning to someone who survived this with their wholeness undamaged. That is not a small thing. That is the most important thing. I want to close with something specific because I feel it pressing through clearly, and I do not want to let this reading end without saying it directly. Whether you choose to open this door again or not, whether the love between you finds a new form, or whether you decide that what you are building is built more solidly without this particular person in it, there is one thing that does not change. You were loved. Through the silence and the distance and the ignoring and everything that hurt, through the version of events that looked from the outside like indifference, through the months or the time that passed in the particular loneliness of caring about someone who seemed not to be caring back, you were loved the entire time. Not in the way you needed, not expressed in the way that would have made it visible or usable or something you could actually receive and be nourished by, but present, real, running underneath everything like water under stone. Constant in the specific way that certain things are constant even when everything on the surface suggests otherwise. That does not fix what happened, but it is true, and you deserve to know it is true. Not so that you will take them back, not so that what was done becomes acceptable, not so that the hurt gets erased by the knowledge of the feeling that coexisted with the behavior that caused it, simply because it is true. And you have been carrying a version of this story where you were not loved. And that version was never accurate. Whatever you decide from here, Virgo, decide it from fullness, from the complete, informed, self-honoring place of someone who knows the whole picture and is choosing consciously rather than reactively, who is not running toward something out of longing or away from something out of hurt, but walking deliberately in the direction that actually serves who they are and what they genuinely need. That person makes an excellent decision. They always do. Leave something in the comments today. Tell me which part of this reading found the place that needed finding. Tell me the word that lives in your chest right now when you let yourself feel this fully without the protection of what you have been using to manage the feeling. This community holds what you offer here. Until next time, Virgo. They never stopped. Neither, if you are being honest with yourself, did you. What you do with that honesty is yours, entirely and completely yours. And whatever you choose, choose it as the whole, full, undiminished person you have somehow remarkably remained through all of this. That person deserves only what is real and only what is worthy of everything they are.